Welcome, and thank you for joining Impacting Leaders e-training for today's course on how to give a performance review. Your instructor for this course is Linda Sasser, CEO of Impacting Leaders. In today's course, Linda focuses on the importance of a successful performance review. When you grow your people, you grow your team, department, and business. So let's get ready to learn more on how to give a performance review.
Well, everybody handles their performance reviews a little bit different. In fact, it's okay for us to personalize our reviews with our teammates. And every company handles them differently. Perhaps you work for a company who has a specific form that you need to fill out. Or perhaps your company doesn't really even have an official annual performance review process. And if they don't, that's okay. It doesn't mean as a leader you should still not play into the improvements of how your teammates can perform. After all, as leaders, we're here to make a difference for people, and we're here to help them perform better in their job for their sake, and of course for ours, for the betterment of the company. So today, in this lesson, we're going to talk about how do you give an effective performance review that's valuable to both you as the leader and the person that's getting reviewed. You know, the whole point of giving a performance review is to grow our people. Sometimes we get caught up in the task of having to do a review, and it becomes a bummer. You know, we think that we have to get through this before the end of the year, or perhaps we have to give them a review before their anniversary date of hire. Now you're approaching it from a task, a job, or more work that you have to do. Instead, approach it as a way to help that person. You know, one of my favorite things to do in these courses is to talk about kind of mishaps that happen to the best of us when we're giving our reviews. So let's start today and talk about some fun mishaps. And let's just laugh at ourselves. I'm sure no one has ever made any of these mistakes. So when you're listening, just laugh at other people and all the mistakes that they made, because I'm sure no one that's listening to this has ever fallen into these traps. Okay, a mishap that the leader doesn't feel that they get any personal value. You know, that's when it does become a job or a chore. If you're not gaining value from the performance review of one of your followers, then shame on you. It should be valuable to you. First, if you make that person better, then it's valuable to you if they work for you, right? Because how good your team performs is really a reflection on you. So of course we want them to get better. Number one. Number two, let them give you feedback, and then it will become valuable to you if you accept it right and if you create a safe environment. Another mishap is the review is treated as a critical conversation. You know, reviews shouldn't just be given when you need someone to get better. Reviews should be given no matter what. And so it's not necessarily a critical conversation. Perhaps they're doing well. And if they're not, you still shouldn't create it to be a situation in which people feel uncomfortable. Make it a conversation. Help the other person. Think of yourself as a coach and an advisor, and you're there to help that person. Doesn't need to be all critical. You might have to give some harsh news, but hopefully you approach it in a way that's helpful. Another mishap is when the leader or the teammate spends absolutely no time prepping. You know, you need to prep for your reviews. We'll talk about this later, but many times they don't go well because we're kind of flying from the hip and we didn't really take the time to honor the person by thinking it through prior to the review. Or this mishap that I like to call dropping the bomb in the review. You know, reviews should not be a total surprise. Hopefully you're talking to the person that you lead and you're letting them know when they're doing well and you're letting them know when they're not doing so well, so that your review just becomes more official to say, you know, we've talked about this before, and I know that you already know I'm probably going to score you low here because we've had these conversations. But let's really dig into it today and talk about perhaps why we're struggling in this area. The mishap of not having clarity. You know, we've got to provide clarity for our people. And what I mean by that is perhaps you're not very clear on the expectations that you have for the person. Them understanding and knowing what you expect of them is so important, and especially in your review. If you're grading someone lower, then make sure you're clear on what they need to do to get a higher grade. If you graded someone above average, perhaps they're doing a really good job in a certain area, provide clarity as to why you like the way they're performing. The mishap of employees not knowing what in the world they're going to be reviewed on. Again, that's clarity and expectations, I guess, isn't it? One of the things that we've started in our organization is when a person is hired, part of their welcome packet, we include the performance review. We want them to know right up front what they're going to be reviewed on and what is expected. And the mishap of merit increase reviews. Now, I know many of you have your annual reviews connected to a merit increase in pay. If that happens, be careful that you don't do the review just for the purpose of the person getting the raise or not getting a raise. Many companies go through ebbs and flows where perhaps they can't even offer an increase in pay. Or some might just have the philosophy to not connect the two together. When you're given a review, keep it focused on the person getting better, whether or not they're going to increase their pay, decrease their pay, get laid off, get let go, or be promoted. It's all about the person. What do you need them to do to get better? Hopefully they know this already, but when you have an officialness to your reviews, there's something about sitting down with a piece of paper and being official that really makes the two, the leader and the follower, concentrate on how to become better. Keep that focus, not the focus of how much pay is the person going to get. Because what will happen is you'll start to score people based on how much money you want them to get or not get. Take that completely out of it. Let that be formulated in the background if you have that in place at your company. Well, now that we've had some fun with the mishaps, let's talk about how to prepare for your review. I mentioned one of the mishaps was that we don't spend enough time preparing. We just wing it. Let's not wing it with people's careers. Let's really prepare and help them get better. So make sure you find some quiet time. Sit down, whether it's at home, whether it's in your office with your door shut, or just some place where you can really concentrate, where you're not going to be disturbed. Now, I like to spend my personal time doing reviews because it is a quieter place at home. When I'm at the office, sometimes I have people running in and out of my office that need my attention. And I really want to focus on this person that I'm getting ready to review. So I do take some time at home so I won't be disturbed. So find that quiet place where you can prepare. Think about, what do I really like about this person's performance? And then where do I really wish they could be better? Just sit back for a bit before you fill out the paperwork and think of those two things. Write them down on a piece of paper. Not a whole lot of things, maybe 2, 3, or 4 items. What do I really, really like about this person and what they're doing? And where do they need to improve? And then as you go through and fill out your paper form, if you have a form that you fill out, make sure at the end that you look back at that to see if it really addressed those items that you wrote down. Did how I score this person reflect those items that I wrote down before I started? Where this person really shines and where this person needs to improve. Many times, in fact, I find myself, guys, we're in the season right now as I'm recording this of giving performance reviews. And I work through this process because I have found that sometimes a form doesn't really bring out the true clarity of what I love about this person's work and where I really wish that they would improve. So I make sure I write that in if there's not a score for it. One question that I get asked quite a bit from leaders is, how long should I spend with the person in their review? The answer to that, I guess, is going to be different based on how casual your review is or how official it is, and your relationship with that person, and perhaps what you've got to tell that person. If it's a tough review, it might take a little bit longer. But I would expect a minimum of 45 minutes. Plan a minimum of 45 minutes. And think about this. Just 45 minutes with this person alone and the value from that conversation and what could happen from that. Now, I'll confess, I take about an hour and a half. And the reason is we really dig in and have good growing conversations. And I let the person play into my leadership. How can I improve? And so we handle our reviews a little bit different in that it's not only about the person, but it's also about me as their leader. And how can I get better? So that will usually take longer. But I would encourage you not to have a 15-minute review. That's really not dedicating a lot of time to this person, and it really doesn't honor their true performance. Okay, let's look at some performance review tips when you're giving a performance review. The first tip, performance reviews should represent the entire year. Now, if this is an annual performance review, back up and realize you're grading this person's performance for the entire year. Now, we're all human, guys, and sometimes we tend to grade someone or rate their performance based on our own emotions, on how we feel about that person. And if I had a bad week last week with this person for some reason, I can't let that bad week really taint how I grade this person's performance. Now, that's hard to do. I would suggest you try to keep notes throughout the year of this person's performance. You know, when you've had difficulty, go ahead and write it down, jot it down, document it, and document the good things too. And when you're in that quiet time preparing for this person's review, settle your mind just a little bit and think about when this person was at their best. Encourage when you can on your review so that when you need to be firm, you feel comfortable doing that. Of course, when we have to deliver perhaps a review that's not so great, or at least we think the person is not going to like how I'm going to score them or review them, finding good things to encourage them on will help deliver that message so much better so that they don't feel like you're just squashing their performance. Make sure that you encourage them when you can so that you can deliver that firm message when you have to. Tip number 3, allow the receiver to discuss their own view of their performance. Now, many performance reviews have an area of which you can do a self-evaluation, and that's for them to fill out on themselves. If yours does not allow you to do that, I would encourage you to have the person come prepared to tell you what they think their strengths are and what they think their areas of weakness are. How do they see their performance? And are you aligned with them? In other words, are you all in agreement with where their strengths and weaknesses are, or are you not aligned? And if you're not, that's where the conversation needs to take place. Now, to do this, you've really got to make it a safe place, a safe environment. Allow them to open up about their own weaknesses. If it's not safe, they are not going to put themselves out there because they're going to think, gosh, if I just tell you all my weaknesses, my score and my grade is going to be lower. Create a safe environment to where sometimes, believe it or not, in some of my reviews, the person actually graded themselves lower than me. They were totally upfront and honest. And I think it's because I've been able to create a safe environment so that I can let them know that, gosh, I think you're being a little bit too hard on yourself on that. Here's what I like about that area and what you've done. Now, when I have a lower grade than that they give themselves, it makes that message so much easier when we're both talking about the good things or the bad things. Number 4, be clear and give specific examples when you're discussing their performance. You know, anytime you can give a person an example of what they've done, it helps them understand what it is that you're not happy with or what it is that you're very happy with. But be specific. You know, I learned long ago, it was great advice that someone gave me. Don't just say thank you to someone or don't just say good job. Hey, John, good job today. That's not specific. Be specific when you see somebody doing something that you really like. Hey, John, good job today. I like the way you led that team meeting. You were clear, specific, and when someone was late, you took care of it. I liked that. Be specific in what you like. And, of course, give illustrations and be specific in areas where you want people to improve. Hey, Mary, I really need to talk to you about how you handled that client on the phone. Here's what I like. The fact that you picked up the phone and called them. Thank you for doing that. Here's what I'd like for you to tweak just a little bit. When you're talking to them, I want you to listen just a little bit more. Ask questions and then listen. I don't feel like you listened as well as you could have. That was very specific so that the person understands exactly what you're talking about. And tip number 5, which is my favorite, is make sure that you allow the person that you're reviewing to get an opportunity to speak into your area of improvements or the areas that they really like and how you lead them. Here's where it becomes valuable. Now the review isn't just about the other person. You're going to gain some value back in your own awareness of how you can be a better leader for this person or perhaps for the organization. It also brings value to the person to really think about, okay, gosh, how can I help my leader be better? Give the person time to prepare for this. In other words, don't just throw it on them at the last minute because they might just say, well, gosh, you're great at everything. If you get that answer, you've got somebody who's just interested in making you feel better and maybe just brown-nosing. Now, I like to be brown-nosed just like any other leader, I guess, but that doesn't help me and I don't improve. So I require our people to bring 3 things that I could do better, to tell me about an area of which I've made a decision that perhaps disappointed them. And my favorite question is, knowing what you know and knowing what's going on in our organization, what kind of leader do I need to be under these conditions? And then let them talk. Don't be defensive. Don't be harsh. Don't make excuses. Thank them for playing in. Even if you disagree, thank them for their feedback. Now, when giving a review, there are 4 areas that we really want to look at. And sometimes I think we get caught up too much in just evaluating a person's skill sets. In other words, do they produce? Are they bringing results? And now we want that. And yes, of course we need to review that. But there's some other items that we really need to pay attention to. One is teamwork. Are they working together with their teammates? Are they able to influence their teammates? Another area I like to look at is their attitude. Are they a positive person? Are they happy? Are they approachable? Are they a person who can come to work and we don't have to worry about their moods? Attitude is so important. And then another area I like to look at is their character and integrity. Can I trust this person? Can the team trust this person? And do they do what they say they're going to do? Or are they a pretender? Those are 4 areas. Of course, we want their skill set to be resultsful, and we want them to be a good teammate. We want them to have a great attitude, and we want them to have character and integrity in how they work. So remember, as you are playing into a person's growth, look at all 4 of those areas so that you can help that person perform and be a better teammate at the same time. Hopefully, under your leadership and your supervision, this person will be a better performer for your team and for your company.